of course, there's climate change. There's always climate change, but where's the crisis? So this is, yeah, there is no climate crisis. That's our main message in the past few years.
I'm just good old average scientist that trying here to spell the wisdom and the truth about climate science, especially about the religion of the rising carbon dioxide causing global boiling, global warming, what have you. But then essentially what we have found over the years that this whole ideology and this whole things are very anti-scientific. They are not based on science at all.
Yeah, truth will always win in the end. Truth will always win in the end. Well, thanks very much indeed. Welcome to the show. I am Jim Ferguson. I'm here in the Netherlands, and I'm here at the organisation of Clintel, where the real truth about the climate and the environment is being told. And these people that are here are real experts. They're very, very professional in what they're doing. They're researched and they've studied it. They've dedicated their life's work to what they're actually talking about. And I was very proud to have had the opportunity to speak to several people here at this event. And what's very clear to me is that they actually understand what's really happening. And of course, we're talking about the Netherlands here, but what they're talking about actually is international in reach and scope. Because the things that are being discussed here don't just pertain to the Netherlands. They actually pertain to every country around the world. So what they're discussing and what they're talking about matters to everybody in every country. And of course, the lying mainstream media don't like to talk about these things. In fact, I was just told on the way over here that they actually had to change this venue 4 times because there were local mayors that didn't want the truth to be told. And this is the constant battle, and this is why it's so important for the alternative media to speak up and showcase what's really happening. And these aren't people that's just got opinions or ideas. I mean, yes, they do that as well, but these are real researchers, they're scientists, they're professors, they're people who understand exactly what's going on with the environment and the impact on all of us, from wind turbines to rising sea levels. And of course, that's a very, very important part of things here in the Netherlands, because there are certain parts, large areas, that are actually 7 meters under sea level. So they've got to get it right for those very reasons. But not only that, they've also got to make sure that policy is being properly developed, not in an alarmist way, but in a way that actually is going to help the environment, because we all agree protecting nature, protecting our oceans, protecting our environment is incredibly important. But unfortunately, the globalists tend to hijack these types of movements. But that's not happening here at Clintel. This is where the truth is really being told, and I'm very, very grateful to my friends in the Netherlands who have taken me here. Jasper in particular, great guy, he's been looking after me really well. And he's actually behind the camera right now, so he's smiling. But I will say this, guys, you know, I very much appreciate your support. I'm very grateful for the likes and the shares. And once again, we've just hit another milestone, 225,000 people following this channel. And I'm deeply humbled by that, because that is truly quite magnificent. I never thought we would see such growth. And I'm with Marcel Krug, who is from the Netherlands. He is also the founder and the director of Clintel. Welcome, it's nice to see you.
Yes.
Really a pleasure to meet you. You're doing some amazing
Great
work.
that you came all the way to Holland to this conference.
Absolutely. Well, my friend Jasper actually told me about it, and I was very, very keen to come in and see you and to meet so many great speakers, because I've met some of them as well, did a little bit of interview.
Yeah.
But what made you decide to actually launch this, to found it, and what was the main motivations?
Yeah, so my background is science journalism. I studied chemistry, then became a science journalist, and then I started writing about climate change 20 years ago already, and then I decided this is so important. We need journalists that really dig into this, you know, and that's what I did. So I quit my job. I worked full time on this issue, but then you notice that you get cancelled, you know. It's harder and harder to publish your articles and things like that. So I became like the national most visible person in the Netherlands opposing all this climate alarm, you know, the idea that there is really a big problem with the climate, and I just look at the same data as they are looking, the IPCC. I wrote a book about the IPCC criticizing them, because look, guys, come on, if you look at the data, You don't. Where's the crisis, you know? Of course, there's climate change. There's always climate change. But where's the crisis? So this is, there is no climate crisis. That's our main message in the past few years.
I'm delighted to actually see Willie Soon. And Willie Soon, thank you for taking some time out of a busy schedule. You are, in fact, the keynote speaker. We have a large international audience. Just tell us a little bit about your background.
Yes, as everybody should know, I'm Willie Soon. I'm just good old average scientist that trying here to spell the wisdom and the truth about climate science, especially about the religion of the rising carbon dioxide causing global boiling, global warming, what have you. But then essentially what we have found over the years that this whole ideology and this whole things are very anti-scientific. They are not based on science at all. So as a humble scientist, we are concerned about such a, what you call, manipulations, abuse of science, and that's very, very bad for society as a whole, regardless of what policy one wish to, design for the future, for the use of energy and things like that. Yes.
Well, I mean, we've got a large international audience. They appreciate people that take the time to stand up and be counted. It's not easy because people get silenced, people come under pressure with funding and certainly those within the scientific community. But you've travelled, have you travelled far to be here today?
Well, indeed, I was having a meeting in Vienna. There was another group, the German group called the IKI, and then I went to Sopron to visit my home institution, which is Earth Physics and Space Science Institute at Sopron, Hungary. A friend of mine who actually arranged for me to have the honorary position so that I could actually, when I write paper, that I could actually put some official. I've been a scientist for a very long time. I used to work at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics for 32 years. I decided to just quit the position, the permanent position. No one could fire me because I did nothing wrong but beautiful science. Okay?
Well, what a story. And you know something, people appreciate those of you within those scientific, but you are a leader in your own right because you're taking that courageous stand, you're fighting for the truth, and I think we're starting to win the narrative. Would you agree that people are in fact becoming more aware of these things?
Oh yes, indeed. I mean, I'm a rather reluctant speaker, as you can see, and then somehow my good friend Marcel Kroc from Clintel, I want to help them celebrate the 5-year anniversary, and they were really been wanting me to come speak for a very long time, but I'm not willing to part with my kids, my family, so I'd rather spend time with them. But this is important enough. So plus I make it a 3-way trip, so I made 3 combinations of visiting all the friends that actually wanted me to come to speak for years. But I do a lot more speaking in USA, of course, everywhere. I'll be having a debate in Princeton University in September with a distinguished professor, but I'm a mere humble scientist, and things like that. So I tend to like to speak out in the sense that during my first 10 years of my career as a postdoctoral fellow and a full-time scientist at the Harvard-Smithsonian, I kind of reluctant to speak. But then the conscience that finding so many of these apparent lies and truth and half-truth get very confusing very quickly, because the IPCC tends to be quite manipulative by misusing the scientific, the good name of science started since Isaac Newton. These are the most wonderful science that we could possibly get, and how can we suffer from such an abuse? I'm very afraid that if we were to play too much of this political game and all this anti-scientific stuff, I mean, I have to say it very plainly. IPCC is anti-science. It's really trying to destroy science if one keeps following those kind of paradigm. It is essentially telling you that the screen here is actually black, but it is blue. You cannot insist on things like this. They will say, maybe it's not so black, maybe, that kind of maybe stuff, because science is exactly very certain on certain aspect of things. You could not change that. And it is that kind of experience that I have by going to, by the way, I always go to their conferences too. I used to be invited many times by them. I have, for example, not debated, but I was at the same forum as Sir John Houghton. At a very young age, I was year 2000, I was very young, 35 years old, I was speaking at the major conferences, and then Sir John Houghton insists, everybody should know, right, he's the first IPCC chairman, actually the first person that did the IPCC report from 1990. Sir John Houghton is rather distinguished atmospheric physicist, and but unfortunately he was worried about me sort of saying things that is not following the narrative. I was criticizing the nature of the climate model at that time. It was very, very bad in the sense that because of all this obsession of demonizing the what you call gas of life to be satanic gas. And that turns me off very badly. And then when you look at the climate model, it was all wrong. I wrote a very major review, and one of my co-authors happens to be the rector of St. Petersburg University. So I have distinguished colleagues who actually kind of know that we are kind of communicating in a very scientific way, that we thought that somebody has to stand up. I was a postdoc at that time, rather young, have to worry about taking care of your family, but I couldn't, my conscience couldn't let me do that.
And I'm here with Jacob Nordengard, who is a scientific background. He's an author, and actually this book in particular is really, really important. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what caused you to write this.
Yes, I have a PhD in science and technology studies, a geographer, and have a master in culture and media production. And this is my book out now on Skyhorse, American publisher. And this book covers a lot about the climate, history of climate policy and science. And it covers a particularly interesting story because it's about the family that was more or less responsible for founding the oil business in the world. ExxonMobil and Chevron, and I mean all the Standard Oil. When I was doing my PhD, I also found out that they had been very, very involved in climate science since the 1950s, and also in climate activism during the 90s and since. And that was a very intriguing story. It was just, why is a family that is into the oil business and founded this, involved in this climate science about carbon dioxide, problems with carbon dioxide from burning of fossil fuels. But it was very strange, so I really had to find out what was behind this. So I investigated this. I actually started in 2009 with my first working paper about this, and then I expanded on this in my PhD thesis, and in this book, I really went into why.
And where can people find this particular material?
Yes, this book, I mean, it's, as I said, out on Skyhorse, and you can find it on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very easy now to find it. And I also have a couple of other books.
Yeah. And you've come to the Clintel Foundation here to you are one of the keynote speakers, I think,
yes,
aren't you?
Yes,
and I mean, I very much appreciate you taking time, because we have quite a large international audience who are particularly interested in the truth of the climate and the environment, and we've had some great conversations here so far this morning. But I think it's also really important that the truth comes out, because the world is constantly changing, but not necessarily in the way that we're being told by some of the mainstream media who are taking a particular narrative. Do you find that challenging in terms of trying to get that scientific, proper thesis out, and do you have any hope that actually is starting to get traction in the international community?
Yes, it has been very, very hard. I mean, as I said, I've been working with for 15 years, and in the beginning it was very hard at the university to actually present this material, because it went against the narrative, as to say. But it has changed, and particularly after COVID-19, that's changed a lot. And before that, this book came out in Swedish in 2019, and at the beginning it was mostly elderly men interested in climate science that bought it, but after the pandemic it was more women than men that actually bought my books. So it's changed a lot, and a lot of people started to questioning what's really going on in the world.
I'm here with Hessel Voortman. Welcome, Hessel. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
You are a specialist, you're an expert in rising sea levels, you have an engineering type background. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing here and because you're one of the main speakers, aren't you?
That's right.
Tell us what it is you're sort of going to be talking a little bit more about today and why it's so important.
I'm going to be talking about my independent research into rising sea levels. I always say sea level rise is a reality, you can observe it, but accelerated sea level rise is still a projection. I'm a coastal engineer by profession. I have my own consultancy firm in coastal engineering. And I always say it is our responsibility as engineers to make sensible decisions, taking into account all information that's out there. And so basically it was out of my own interest to make a comparison between the observations and the projections of sea level rise.
Of course, that's very important here in the Netherlands because there are large swathes of areas that are very much under sea level. And if you get that wrong, it could have disastrous consequences. So in terms of giving advice to the government, what sort of things are you sort of telling them just now and that they need to be aware of as far as that's concerned?
Actually, it is a common policy in the Netherlands to take into account projections of sea level rise. And what a sensible decision is depends on what you're doing. If you're building a large ship lock, like I was involved in the ship lock in IJmuiden, which is the largest lock in the world, that's a structure you cannot modify once it's there. And then it's a wise decision to take a bit of extra. On the other hand, if you look at our sandy coast, it's very easy to say, okay, if we maintain it by nourishing sand, it's very easy to come back 1 or 2 years sooner than you expected, and that's not really a problem. So it really depends on where you are and what you're trying to do.
Well, I think it's great that you are meeting with so many other experts here in their own particular fields and bringing that knowledge and that sort of that sensible view to what's actually going on, because it can have very large impacts, can't it, on all of our communities, not just here in the Netherlands, but actually around the world as well.
Yeah. That's right, but I think the key point is that the projections of sea level rise, now I'm basing myself on the IPCC reports, even within the projections of the IPCC, the uncertainty is extremely large. So I think it is our job to navigate the uncertainty.
Excellent.
And so I'm very much in favor of responding adaptively to, so looking ahead 10, 20, 30 years, not 100 or 200 years, making sensible decisions and observe what's happening.
Well, I would just like to say a huge thank you to you. It's great to meet so many people here that's got that sort of scientific and that expert background. Is there any final words that you would like to say to our international audience?
I wasn't prepared for that. I would like to say, be curious and don't panic.
Be curious and don't panic. Wise words, I love that. Hessel Wertman, thank you so much indeed for your help and your time. Thank you so much.
So 5 years ago I founded Clintel with my co-founder Guus Berghout, because we needed, like, if you're only a freelance journalist, it's really hard to raise money, to get funding and to get the message out. And so we founded Clintel, and so it's now...
You've done an amazing job, I've got to say, and so many people are involved with you now. I mean, this conference is packed out. I've been seeing so many people, great people, and have actually managed to have some interviews with some of your main speakers. But I think in terms of opposition, very often they will try to cancel venues on you and do things like that, and then you have to redo it. So there's a lot of dirty tricks being done. But what you're achieving here is not just relevant to the Netherlands, is it? Because actually these issues are truly global and international in perspective, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And therefore, I mean, Clintel was founded as a foundation in the Netherlands, but we have this World Climate Declaration that's now signed by 1,930 scientists and experts around the world, among them 2 Nobel Prize winners. And so you see that this group of people that dare to oppose, because it's not easy to oppose this, you risk to be cancelled. So we have a lot of retired people. I'm actually one of the youngest, who's doing this. Willy Soon, who will be speaking here, he's also relatively young, he's late 50s. We need more people who dare to speak out about this issue.
Well, I mean, it takes a lot of courage actually, because a lot of the scientists and a lot of the people that are researching these things are funded by government institutions or government-backed or influenced bodies. And of course, if you go away from the narrative, you can get cancelled, you can have funding withdrawn. But the fact that you've got built such a large group of really top scientists, professors, experts in their own field, is really quite an achievement, and I pay tribute on behalf of the international audience for you, to you, and for the work that you're doing. And it really is great, I think, for everybody to see that this is now applying to not just the Netherlands but to everybody. And of course it's linked into the farmers, the Dutch farmers of whom I'm going to be interviewing and meeting many in the next few days that I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
So we've got a pretty packed schedule. I've got a great team of people that I met here in the Netherlands the last time I was here, and I'm very, very supportive of what's going on here, and happy to help support the work that you're doing. So let me just ask you if there's any final words to our international audience that you would like to give to them, and tell us what you think.
Yeah, so I think we need many more people, you know, who support us, because our work is not supported by the government, is not supported. In Holland we have the Postcode lottery, it's a big lottery, a lot of money. They give money to NGOs, you know, but they won't give us any. So we are like, and I see the same thing in today we have somebody of the CO2 Coalition, who's an American organization, and he told me yesterday that also their funding is coming from private citizens. So we need many more, like we have Friends of Clintel, and only with that kind of support we can do more work and we can get the message out.
I'll probably speak to you off camera about this, but I'm the founder of Freedom Train International, which is an international freedom movement that's all about the right to speak freely, freedom of speech, anti-censorship and all of these things. And we have many thousands of members all around the world, a lot in America and a lot in Canada in particular, but that membership that is truly international in reach. So maybe we can help you by helping to promote what you're doing on that as well. It's a very widely viewed platform. Great, yeah, absolutely. Well, Marcel, I'm just very grateful. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Yes, okay.
And I wish you every success in the future.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, look, this is Jim Ferguson, once again meeting some amazing people here in the Netherlands. It's going to be busy and it's going to be intense. I've got a packed schedule and I'm coming back to you with more reports over the next few days. But I can assure you these people are fighters. They're fighting for the truth and they're fighting for freedom. And I know that all of you are as well. So my sincere thanks to each and every one of you for liking and sharing and supporting these wonderful people.
I have a strong family, my foundation in believing God, things like that, that helps me to be certain that this is a mission that I was called to do, to speak out, to tell the truth, do the most careful science that I can. If I have found anything wrong in what I've said or what I've produced in my scientific papers, those are all, everybody is free to read in the scientific literature, then I will admit that I'm wrong and apologize, things like that. That's a key feature of being a scientist, by the way. It's a very important quality.
It absolutely is. But many of us find ourselves in these situations that we didn't necessarily think we were going to get into. And it's quite strange how we do sometimes. I didn't really intend to set out doing what I'm doing now either. But I'm very much appreciative of it. And it brings me into contact with wonderful people, especially those within the scientific community. So I would just like to say a huge thank you for the work that you're doing, the dedication that you're giving. And is there a final word for our international audience that you would like to say before you go?
I would simply say that, you know, keep finding out the facts for yourself, because everything you hear is almost controlled opposition. All the narrative is all created artificially. And every single time when they make a graph, like they're trying to say, that's global warming. One of the examples that I'll show, the IPCC graph show you some global warming curve. But that global warming curve doesn't represent natural science. It actually shows you urban heat island effect, urban warming. That's completely contradictory to the idea that is carbon dioxide, that is, because that's related to many more factors that is in the natural world. And I show alternative, because science is not enough to just point out problems. One has to see if one have a way to try to understand, full understanding of the whole picture. So very simple. I'm very happy that I was able to demonstrate that and publish all of that in peer review. So we published 2 major papers last year. IPCC is not very happy, but what can I do? I mean, science is science, truth is truth. I mean, too bad, right?
Yeah.
But I say be courageous. Also speak out. Pick your next 5 friends that you have that in your family that trust you. Nobody should pick a fight. Everybody should just try to share. If they say they believe in global warming, guide them on what basis. Do you like to maybe study Willie Soon or Clintel's work to see that what they say, these are all legitimate scientists, extremely good scientists, highly accomplished in that sense. I mean, you can see that even John Clauser, the recent 2022 Nobel Prize laureate in physics, even though he done his work in quantum entanglement, but he has some knowledge on natural world. He studied, he know data, he know numbers. You know, he was studying heavily cloud now, you know, how nature of cloud. So his main thesis is basically that cloud is controlling the whole climate system, is the dominant force. No, there's no chance that this so-called satanic gas, the CO2, would do that in any way. Yes, I wish everybody well. I wish even IPCC well. I wish to engage them. If actually they like to speak out, they would have a forum. I will give half an hour of my time for them to speak next to me, you know, after I do. Like Sir John Houghton don't like me to speak as the last. He said that he want to arrange that I speak first, then he see the last shot. Oh, that's fine, completely fine, you know. Let's have a open debate.
Well, God bless you, sir. Mr. Soon, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you, and I wish you every success in the future. And and I'm sure you'll be. I think that you'll be very well received here. It's a great audience, some amazing people.
I'll do my best. God bless.
God bless. I mean, you mentioned the pandemic, you mentioned the lockdowns, you know, all that type of thing, and it is connected. I do find that there's a lot of ladies around the world who, in fact, they're great organisers. We'd be lost without them, I have to say. Yeah. You know, we do our part, but they're doing an increasingly important role in helping to get and facilitate groups and meetings and bring it all together. And I have to say, this is my second time here in the Netherlands, and I've got a great team of people here supporting the work that I'm trying to do as well. But getting the word out is so important. But look, I know you're really busy, I'm not going to keep you back, but is there any final words that you'd like to say to our international audience before you go?
Yeah, truth will always win in the end.
Truth will always win in the end. What a great way. I absolutely do concur. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. Thank you for your time. He's not trying to block out the sun like Bill Gates. I would be much more inclined to listen to Mr. Soon than Bill Gates. But anyway, nice to see you, and thank you once again for all of the support. But there's going to be a lot more reports. I've got politicians to interview. I've got Dutch freedom fighters to speak with and interview. And of course all the freedom fighters that are supporting us and what we're trying to do around the world. So for the time being, this is Jim Ferguson. We will speak soon. Stay tuned. There's a lot more coming. Bye-bye for now.